sum and half the fee for a senior citizen.
For more details, please contact Executive Director, Kerala Management Association.
Good evening, friends, and a warm welcome to all the invited guests, KMA leaders and members. Let us begin this special edition of the KMA panel discussion series with a minute's silence and a prayer to Almighty that we all remain safe and healthy and all of us overcome these challenging times. Continue to be seated wherever you are and close your eyes for a minute. Thank you and good evening once again to our guests of the evening, Professor Dr. Hari Kumar of QSAT, Mr. Saju James, my friend of Fragoman, India, corporate psychologist Dr. Vipin Roldan, Mr. T.A. Arunanand of Full Contact India, our own past president of KMA, Mr. Sa Nair, our own past president of KMA and a senior HR consultant, Mr. P. Premchand, past president Vivek Krishna Govind, Senior Vice President Nirmala Lili, Vice President Mr. A. Balakrishnan, Treasurer Mr. Bibu Punuran, other Managing Committee members, members of KMA and other LMAs, students and invited guests. Today we have a panel discussion on a contemporary topic which is really going to affect our ecosystem. These are sessions that the program committee at KMA put together to bring to the fore such issues that we encounter as things evolve on a day-to-day basis. We bring some of the experts related to such issues to our stage to deliberate and discuss on the situations, reasons, challenges, opportunities, and all pros and cons that such topical issues raise. If you recollect, we have had such panel discussions in the recent past on issues like the security scare that put the popular mobile app WhatsApp, which was raised with IT experts, major deadlines, changes in taxation matters and statutory amendments of the governments with a panel of financial experts, a growing challenge of the geriatric population on the rise in our state being dissected in yet another panel discussion most recently, and now we have another topical concern for the session today, while we are hearing a lot about the disruptions, innovations, and new normals being spoken about during these COVID times in almost all domains of business and walks of life. A new challenge or concern or even an opportunity for some seem to be on the anvil. A pandemic epiphany of great resignations. It's a differently huge cloud raining now. A cloud of resignations that is raining heavily in many businesses and certain industries in particular. The challenges and opportunities that this phenomenon causes in this expectedly post-COVID era is to be understood and kept in mind in our way forward now. And we have an expert panel here today to address us on this situation propelled by the pandemic. Well, this is how KMA has been pulling on in these troubled times to keep our members engaged, remain positive, and provide with meaningful deliberations and events of utility. Situation around us is slowly limping back to some kind of sanity, yet uncertainty looms large on many aspects of our day-to-day life and business. Adding to the turmoil is a new threat on a daily basis regarding the unforeseen and unprecedented heavy rainfalls and the related threats from our frequent visitor to Kerala, the floods. In spite of all the troubles and turmoil of all this, KMA has been continuously bringing to you very many events of purpose on a regular basis. Leader Talks lecture series with evening lectures on matters of management, leadership, and academic interest, 19 of them till now. StartCon discussion series presenting successful startup companies featuring 22 such individuals who are making it big with their startup ideas. Very meaningful and focused women managers forum activities at least once a month, and many management education programs we were trying to serve suiting everyone's palate. We even conducted a week-long management week celebrations during February, a management students convention with over 800 B school students participating, organized a virtual run called the KMA Run with nearly 1,000 participants from across the country, propagating our theme of spearheading responsible management, and also conducted one digital summit and also a leadership seminar in association with Rotary, both in hybrid format. All three memorial lectures of KMA, they are the Professor M.V. Paili Memorial Lecture, Professor K.T. Chandi Memorial and Sri M.K.K. Nair Memorial Lectures, were also conducted with some of the finest speakers addressing our delegates. In addition to this, we have started a series of workshops for the MSME sector with an opening meet that was inaugurated by the State Industries Minister Mr. P. Rajiv himself, and continuing with specific workshops enlightening the participants on various schemes, benefits and offers available with central, state and banking institutions. We thereafter had the first of such workshops on central government schemes, where we have had the State Industries Principal Secretary, Mr. Mohammad Hanish, IAS, and Joint Director from the Ministry of MSME, Government of India, Mr. G.S. Prakash, addressing the delegates. We had the second in the series of workshops when Sri S. Harikishore IAS, Director of Industries and Commerce Department of the Government of Kerala, interacting with our MSME members on the state government schemes and policies available for the MSME segment. And the third, that was last week, we had Mr. Shaji KV, Deputy Managing Director of NABARD, presenting insights on the various packages and offerings by the banking sector for the MSMEs. We also initiated a new event titled Rendezvous with the CEO, a program organized by the KMA CEO Forum, which features an interactive session with CEOs of national repute who have made significant and remarkable achievements against all odds to share their success stories with our members. We have had two such events till now with Mr. Kishore Rangta, the CMD of FACT Limited, and Mr. Dilip Uman, CEO of ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, coming to address our members. Well, it is indeed fulfilling to note that all such initiatives and the encouraging responses that KMA received from our members, invited guests and delegates, have played a major role in bringing IMA's two of the most coveted awards of the year, the Best Local Management Association Award of the country and the Most Improved LMA of the Year Award to KMA. Thank you all for your wholehearted support, which is continuing. Well, coming to today's panel discussion, as I had mentioned earlier, our program committee headed by past President S.R. Nair and our team have been conceiving similar sessions, bringing in domain experts to keep all our members updated and well informed on recent and contemporary issues cropping up and affecting our day-to-day businesses and lives. Today, we have Professor Dr. Harikumar of QSAT, Mr. Saju James of Fragoman India, Corporate Psychologist Dr. Vipin Roldan, Mr. T.A. Arunanand of Full Contact India, our own past President, Mr. P. Premchand, who is also a Senior HR Consultant, and Program Committee Chair and past President of KMA, Mr. S.R. Nair, forming an elite panel to discuss and deliberate on this very interesting and intriguing topic, the Great Resignation, a Pandemic Epiphany. On behalf of the Managing Committee at KMA and all of us present here, I formally welcome you, Professor Dr. Harikumar, Mr. Saju James, Dr. Vipin, Mr. Arunanand, Mr. P. Premchand, and Program Committee Chair, Mr. S.R. Nair, to this KMA panel discussion that is about to commence. I also extend a hearty welcome to all the past presidents. I can see Mr. Rajmohan Nair also joining now, present here, members of Managing Committee and the Executive Committee, Senior Vice President, Treasurer, members of KMA and other LMAs, student members, members of the media, and all invited guests to this session which is about to begin. So without further ado, let me invite our Program Committee Chair, Mr. S.R. Nair, to formally introduce the topic for the day, the panel, and also take us through this discussion to deliberate and to enlighten us on the epiphany or this sudden realization. For those who still do not know Mr. S.R. Nair well, he is a senior past president of KMA and is a renowned corporate mentor, business coach, author, blogger, and thinker who turned his focus to academia after a successful stint as an IT entrepreneur for many years. Over to you, sir, to introduce the speakers or the panelists and take us through the session, including the Q&A, if any. Thank you so much for the patient listening.
Thank you, President Madhav Chandran. The chair of the session and the president of KMA, Madhav Chandran, all respected past presidents who are attending this session, KMA Managing Committee members, KMA members, invited guests. our guests who have been invited to be on the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, basic introduction to the theme has been already given away by our president. We called the subject as the Great Resignation, a pandemic epiphany. Epiphany, fundamentally, it's a Shashitaru type of a word. The meaning of it comes as a revelation, a sudden realization. Okay. Now, why it is called a great pandemic epiphany, you're all aware, because it is a pandemic times over the last close to 2 years, 2 calendar years actually. If you look at it another month ago, we would be completing 2 calendar years of COVID infection. Okay. Developed economies have already had this impact of this great resignation, which also have spilled over to developing and countries like India, China, etc. Just to give you some small stats on this, one survey conducted says that 95% of Americans are thinking of quitting the job. It is during this pandemic time, their thoughts has gone into that. Microsoft survey of its employees worldwide had come out with this understanding that 41% of the global employees of Microsoft are thinking of quitting or switching their jobs. In the month of August, that is this year, 4.3 million, that is 43 lakhs people had quit their job in the USA. And total since April 2021, close to about 20 million, that's you call 2 crore people had quit their jobs. In Germany, 1/3 of the German companies are short of employees, and current requirement of skilled workers in Germany is about 400,000. OECD nations, which is a 38-member nation committee, they have 20 million employees did not report back to job after the COVID had started. We also see attrition in the Indian technology sector, particularly IT companies, both IT services and IT enabled services put together. It is up to about 23%. We see these waves going across to Latin America, across to China, across to many parts of the world. Now, reason had been asked as to why such an exodus. Actually, it's an exodus. People moving away, quitting, happened. Many reasons. And 50% of the reasons said that it is unemployment benefit that they have received. Yes, of course, in the US, Professor will actually explain this later. In the US, many people actually took it cool because they had this unemployment benefit, welfare benefit. Some people, okay, realization dawned onto them that it is time to go because inadequate pay, caregiving has not been good, relocation of not their employment, the workplace or their staying place, and of course, definitely the fear on the deadly virus. The fear is slowly coming down. In the beginning, it has been such a tremendous level of fear that people carried with them, and that is we have started to live with COVID now. But the elephant in the room, as it is said by Palki Sharma Upadhyay in her Vion broadcast, is something called work-life balance. This we'll discuss at length with Dr. Vipin Roden. He's a corporate psychologist. Now, we also see two elements or two developments that has happened in the market also acting as a catalyst for this to happen. And one is the gig economy. And gig economy is essentially freelance economy, contract-based economy, platform-based company and worker linkages, people taking things not as a full-time employment, and that is growing. On the other end, there is a startup revolution. And if you really understand, they said that in the US, 1.43 million startups has actually been registered in this year. 1.43 million startups, that is 14.3 million startups. And the number of startups registering in our country also is not that low. Okay, so gig economy, startup, etc., had actually given more impetus for this resignation epiphany to happen. Okay, people have started, it seems, reimagining their life. Now, for many people, life is not centered around the job, which was otherwise so, particularly in the developed economies. Now, people are thinking that, okay, in this transient called life, is there a better way that I can live, enjoying and living with people and actualizing himself. Okay, so therefore we call this pandemic epiphany also as workers' revolution. That is where we are now, and these numbers are not cooked up numbers. These numbers are already been published. We have articles from McKinsey, we have surveys from Google, we have surveys from Microsoft, we have newspapers, economists, Wall Street Journal, all of them writing about it with a lot of stats around that. So all these numbers are not cooked up numbers. But if you really look at these are numbers in millions, not in thousands, in millions. And to discuss that, we have five great people. And of course, we have, as Madhav had said, our past president of Kerala Management Association, past chairperson of NAP of Kerala chapter, as well a very senior corporate executive. Now he is actually taking it cool. He had been part of Sudkemi, he had been part of Rajagiri Hospital, he had been part of Gwalior Riots, etc., etc. Mr. Premchand, welcome to you, sir. We also have Professor Hari Kumar, formerly the head of the Department of Applied Economics and currently the Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences at Cochin University of Science and Technology. We will discuss with him on the social economic aspect of it. Sir, a great welcome to you. We have Saju James, an entrepreneur who had built up his company called Fragoman Immigration Services India Private Limited, who has actually had very senior position at director level, etc. in TCS and many other. Currently a charter member in CHAI, former managing council member of KMA. Saju James, a great welcome to you. We have Dr. Vipin Roldan, a corporate psychologist, a practitioner, a mentor, a trainer, and author of many books. And one of them is a lovely book which has actually come in installments in Madhubhumi, and the book is called Dim Tarigadadu. It's a lovely book, a lovely name for a book to have. Okay. And Vipin Roldan, with whom we'll discuss about the work-life balance and the mental and emotional health issues that employees have been going through. We also have Arunanand, who is a very interesting person, a postgraduate engineer. A postgraduate engineer started as a techie, a techno guy, later moved into HR, now heading the HR of an American company, which has taken over a startup here in India called Profoundis. The company is called Full Contact, and Arunanand heads its HR functions. Okay, it's more than a decade that he has been part of HR, in spite of the fact that he's a postgraduate engineer. Gentlemen, a great welcome to you all. Okay, so let me start with Mr. Premchand. Essentially, why resignation and why this is happening? Sir, are you okay? Can I hear from you? Hello, Premchand sir.
Premchand sir, you have to unmute.
Please unmute.
I thought I will be unmuted from there. Okay.
No. You could unmute or I'll have to ask Prajit to do so. Prajit, can you unmute Mr. Premchand?
Now I am unmuted, isn't it?
Fine. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let me ask you this question. We'll go to the fundamental level of understanding as to this very simple question. This is, and why do people resign, sir? When people want to build up their career, build up their life around their career, and earn and learn and move up the ranks, and then join these fancy organizations and work in, and suddenly they decide to quit. So why do people resign?
Thank you, sir. I think you have, I don't know whether you have chosen the wrong person to start the whole thing, but whatever it is, your question is very precise. But resignation is something which was there right from beginning. It is not something new out of post-COVID or pre-COVID. But then, there are various reasons for it. Possibly things are like poor compensation packages, insufficient work-life balance, which the psychologist is going to talk about, lack of career advancement and opportunities, and again, a very common thing, which is a boss-subordinate relationship. It could be in terms of sort of reporting relationship, or in terms of work relationship, or even selfish, egoistic relationships, outdated protocols and policies which are not being accepted, or lack of recognition on the job where I am not properly, or I get a feel that I am not properly recognized for the job I do, or I am not properly appreciated for the job I do, or I am not properly rewarded for the job I do. These are various things, but in the present context of lack of accommodating work arrangements, including remote working and hybrid work culture and flexible work schedules. And these are another reasons why, because people started moving and resistance. And because of this, in such hybrid situations, there developed a lot of resistance. Because, as I was talking the other day to a friend of mine, what happens in many places is due to this work, post-COVID scenario, during work from home situations, we used to have a 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 work schedules. But here, what happens when it becomes flexible, again, as I told earlier, the boss subordinate relationship, it is flexible. So what they do is the boss always decides on the flexibility. And so earlier at the start, everything was comfortable. As time went, people, the younger generation started realizing that it is affecting their work relationships, their work timings, because the work never ends on a fixed time or starts on a fixed time. It could go late night. Many a time it may be comfortable. There are situations where it's uncomfortable. So these are some of the many critical reasons why people resign and leave job or look for new jobs or look at various other options.
I will come back to you, sir. I have many questions for you, but thank you very much. In fact, you have taken a very comprehensive view of the whole thing, including the COVID situation. I would go to Professor Harikumar just to understand, sir, from a societal economics perspective, it is unbelievable that tens of millions of people put in their papers, in 1.5 years. Do you think that people resigning en masse are not counting the economics of their life?
Professor, it's not audible. Will you repeat it?
The question is, from a societal economics perspective, are you able to hear me now, sir?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Yeah, okay. From a societal economic perspective, it is really, really unbelievable that tens of millions of people will put in the paper just like that. Okay, in about a year, if you say that 10 million, 15 million, 20 million people have put in the paper, it's a big development. It's a major milestone. It's something unthinkable. Okay. Now, do you think that people resigning en masse are not counting on their economics of their life? Just like that, they're taking a decision without thinking of the economy of their live and life and kids and families, etc. Sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm audible to you. Okay,
you're audible. You're audible.
Yeah. See, when people are quitting the job in this situation, there are possibly they will have some options in front of them. Options in the sense that they may be having a little bit of savings. They are already identified some other avenues in which they can, or that which avenues will be satisfying their ambitions. So as far as the social and the economic impact of this, initially people began think that there can be an economic impact, negative impact. Generally, people resign this in this situation or under this situation only when they are sure that they can survive in different situations. The living conditions, they can make it. Now, if I take the case a little bit reference to Indian conditions, why people prefer to search for jobs than for going for entrepreneurship or starting for this startups. Startups are very recently it came into the Indian picture actually. So there, in the Indian condition, it is the social recognition is there. That social recognition of what I mean is that if you are getting a job, you are socially recognized. But in the European and in the US situation, that kind of recognition is not a serious issue at all. Nobody is worried about what other man is doing. If somebody says that, here somebody says he has already quit a job and he's sitting idle, I don't know what he is doing, then how people will recognize him is a matter. So as far as the person in US or in Europe or Germany, nobody is bothered. So he takes a decision on the basis of that for 6 months or for some period of time, he can maintain a decent level of living under the present situation or the same standard of living he can maintain. Or in other words, or in other way, we can say that he can search or identify a suitable job which he likes. As mentioned by former president, maybe the work-life balance that has created the problem. So he has certain ambitions or he has certain already set goals in his mind, and that he has to achieve it. For achieving that, he will be trying to do so. So he may be learning, or he will be taking some other attending some training programs which are available in the market, which will fetch new job. So economic, or from the side of economics, in that way, individuals may need not be much affected unless and until he is sure about his background. I don't think that nobody will quit a job, even in US
sir,
or US.
Right, sir. I have a corollary question to it. In fact, as you said that these people have quit. In developed economies, there has been this issue of compensations and subsidies that has come to people. Okay, so the welfare was very much there. Point number one. And I think we have not been able to see the impact of these people quitting on the market, on the product and services market at all.
That I will really look at it.
I will come to that point. What is your take on this?
I will come to that much. So the economy, we can say that this is affecting the economy on two conditions. One, there is huge unemployment persist for a long period of time. Then secondly, will this affect the output market? That means whether this particular situation reduces the demand for goods in the market. So if it reduces the demand for market, it is an indication that the purchasing power of people has come down. So whether such a situation prevails there or not, that is not evident from any of the reports or any of the studies that has come out. So I don't believe that such kind of decline has occurred in any of these economies. Or there's negative impact on output. We can say that unemployment is there, but on the outputs, on the economy's output or economy's market demand for goods, no, that is not evident at all.
I think the subsidies also must have played a major role in that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Thank you, sir. Let me go to Saju. Saju, I'm trying to put two questions together for you, Saju, to understand. The first question is, did the industry, I mean, of course, you are in immigration solution services. So there is immigration part of the understanding, there is a HR part of the understanding, and there is a technology part of the understanding. Okay. So I am talking to you with all these things put together, Saju. Okay. And also from an entrepreneur's perspective, from an employer's perspective. Okay. And I'm also saying this on the background that Indian tech scene also is affected by the resignations. Okay. And in fact, I was discussing with our Vice President Bala about some of the meetings that has happened in InfoPark, Technopark, etc., of smaller companies lamenting that bigger companies are taking away their employees. And the bigger companies said that we are taking away the employees because our employees are quitting. So this always happened, and we always see this people growing up in the value chain, etc. And they also must have happened. Okay, so I'm trying to put two questions together. The first question therefore, Saju, is that did you anticipate, or did the industry anticipate such a great dynamics is the great resignation to happen in employment and career of the people, okay, in the developed economics per se, and of course in India as a subset of that. The second question that I'm trying to combine with that, Saju, okay, is that do you feel that there's a definite divide on the aspirations and purpose of between the employers and employees for this to happen? Did you get the question, Saju?
Sure, I got it. Thank you.
Yes,
sir. Again, thank you, KMA, for having me on this panel. And SR, you definitely stole the thunder by laying out all the statistics I had by-hearted for this presentation. I think you've covered it very well with respect to 4.3 million resignations happening in the month of August, 42% of Microsoft employees leaving. These are all stats which are available, and obviously we are watchful and worried about what is in store for us. And to your point, there are two aspects. We look at one, the developed nations. We've already seen the impact because the COVID easing of the COVID restrictions happened in the developed countries a couple of months back. And we also started seeing return to work policies being laid out by most of the organizations and asking their employees to come back roughly by July, August timeframe. That's exactly when we started seeing the stats of the higher number of resignations, especially from July, which was 245,000 resignations in the US.
Yeah.
In the month of August, it went up to 4.3 million. And that was exactly the time when the easing of restrictions happened and employees were asked to come back.
Yeah.
And to your point, I would say, obviously, all of them were working at home at the ease of their residence for almost 18 months, not having time to prepare to come back to office. Most of the organizations, not realizing what is in store for them, announced their back to office policy, which they considered to be normal for them, which was not the normal. Now, when we look back, that was not the normal, and the employers never anticipated this crisis to happen for the first thing. And if you look at our situation in India today,
Yeah.
we had a couple of months' time, as we heard about what's happening in the developed countries, to prepare ourselves to handle this dilemma. And coming back to my firm, Fragoman, we are the largest immigration law firm in the world, and we have 40 offices worldwide.
Yeah.
And the same situation we are talking about, the Great Resignation, and 18 offices in the US. In the month of July, August, we saw the same exodus, what happened with most of the other organizations in the US, in our firm as well. So there was a lot of discussions in the background. There was a lot of strategies being formed, looking at options to see how to manage those resignations and how do you replace those positions. Thinking about strategies on how to balance or how to slow down your approach rather than asking all of them to come back quickly. Do you have a soft launch of employees to come back to office? So all of those strategies, I was fortunate to be part of to some extent, or I was able
Very great to know. So I'm really talking to a person who had actually gone through it, been there and done that type of a person. Go ahead, Saju. Sorry for butting in.
Sure. So that really helped as a firm in India for us to prepare well in advance. And to everyone's point about social security benefits and others which are available in the US and the Western world, again, it's a little more easier than India to look at options where they could decide that for 18 months I was within my four walls in my house and I've never got to travel. I want to take my life easy now, and looking at life and seeing what has happened while during pandemic. I want to be with my family. I want to travel. So there were a lot of other priorities which came in at that point of time. Specifically, when we did a survey, we realized that a lot of them went for higher studies.
Yes.
So the change in plans came in as the economy opened up, and the sudden economic revival also brought in a lot more opportunities for these employees. So that's on the developed economy.
Yeah.
Now looking at India and preparing ourselves, knowing what was happening in the other parts of the world, we tried to be very careful with our strategies.
Yeah.
We said, why not look at a hybrid model? Why not look at full-time work from home? Why not look at full-time work from office? So we came up with multiple options for our employees. And if you look at the firm, we grew from a 750 employee company when we started the pandemic to a 1,200 employee company in the last 18 months. So
during the pandemic time, you have grown by about more than 50%.
I think this was probably considering this as an opportunity when everyone else was shrinking. That was probably an opportunity for us to expand our back office operations, to support our parent organizations to stay afloat, and also to provide excellent customer service. So that was our strategy during this 18 months, and I think to an extent we were successful.
Thank you, Saju. I'll come to you because there are some more points that I would like to take it up with you. Okay,
Sure.
let me go to, thank you very much. It's not the end of it. I'll definitely come back to you. Saju, please wait for a few minutes. Okay.
Sure.
Dr. Vipin told that, okay, I just started saying that the elephant in the room is the work-life balance. Premchand sir, when he started, he also said that, he in fact said some of the, notwithstanding the fact that Saju had said that people, when they were asked to come out of the comfort of their home to workplace, people started quitting. That is one point of looking at it. The other point of looking at it is when Mr. Premchand said that, people are also not very comfortable doing the work at WFH, that is work from home, particularly people, the women employees. That is some level of statistics that we have received, particularly related to India. Now, therefore, we also see that in the Google survey, this has been conducted en masse across. They found that mental health and psychological health is a top priority of the employees now. Mental health and the psychological health is the top priority of the employee now. And that emanates from the fact that it has anything to do with the work-life balance. Okay. And probably was that not the case in the past? It's something that we are actually looking at it. But the knowledge economy has made the difference, because most of us are doing this cerebral type of a job where mind and the brain is affected. So which, when affected, affects the work-life balance and the mental and the psychological health. Okay, what is your experience and what is your reading on this subject, Dr. Vipin Rao?
Yeah, it's a really interesting area, sir. And before that, actually, I'm expressing my gratitude to be in this platform. I am first time coming to KMA platform and this kind of interaction, and I'm expressing my love and gratitude and comfort to this platform. Is a great one. Very important scenario which I am noticing this area is actually, of course, as you mentioned about the mental health scenario, definitely that is there. At the same time, the perception of the people got changed. While they were in home, especially during the work from home aspects, as well as they were in home during the pandemic period, they were restructured their purpose of life. And they will realize that even beyond the job, there is family, there is wife, there is husband, there is my mom, there is my dad, and there is a parenting role, there is a real husband role. They will actually reform their brain. Of course, they're into restructuring their mindset, and not only for spending our time for the goals of the company, rather than I have a great purpose in my life. If I'm working for somebody's dream and I'm actualizing for somebody's dream, and I am just wasting my time for actualizing somebody's dream, why should I work for my family? Why should I work for my own dreams? There's a kind of my own entity syndrome gradually got developed, because many of us actually wasted their perceptual effort for the company, as well as they are also maybe landed with the stress and strain and lots of emotion and other psychological issues because of the stress and burnout syndromes. And they will realize that, of course, there is only one life. And why should I waste my time? What about my happiness? What about my freedom? What about my emotional comfort? Those things actually maybe the current corporate are unable to compensate, or they may think that, I think if I can do something else, because there is also lots of propagandas coming into startups and funding and my own entity and my own dreams, and everything is actually connected with the dream itself. Before that, before we had a concept of course, a good job, higher position, higher pay, and all other things. Later, in the entire world, actually promoting the people who are coming with lots of ideas, and those ideas getting their own fund, and those funds, and they are becoming Apple or Google or different other companies. So the people who are working in the organization also have the same dreams. They thought that because I am working for the benefit of the organization, then why can't I? Why can't I work for myself? Why can't I work for my family? Then they are thinking that. Many of them actually not realizing that the startup is not so easy, but not realizing. But when they are coming to that, that is also another scenario. But they are thinking in terms of their own comfort, their own happiness, their own harmony, and more than the work-life balance, they are thinking that the work-life integration or the work-life harmony required. So their primary concern go into the mental health aspects. So the happiness part and everything is there. So they thought that why should I take a decision to change to certain other things? So their internal self and their family matters and their work from home pressures, and because the double work or triple work are coming to the work from home approach, so everything actually connected them or led them to kind of a strong decision to leave the job, and they are running behind their dreams. That kind of scenarios actually regularly coming.
Dr. Vipin, 1 second, I'm butting in. I'm sorry for that. See, you had given two scenarios. One scenario, me, my job, my life around my job, my family around my job, and me getting promoted, me getting perquisites, me earning well, my ego satisfaction, etc. Abraham Maslow's theory, all that being applied. Okay, that was at one side. Today you are saying that okay, he got re-hardwired by working at home. That's what I understand from you. Correct me if I'm wrong. By working at home, by being with parents and children, wife and sisters, and the paraphernalia around, sort of a rewiring of the brain has happened, and he started thinking. And he said that, okay, why should I be completely dedicating myself to this work, which you feel, Mr. Premchand said that the workload also is very high in addition to the work pressure. So that being the case, you're saying that a shift of thinking happened. Am I right in understanding you?
Exactly happened because the environmental thoughts actually connect. As we know that there is an organization climate and work from home climate. In that climate, actually, of course, the pressure from office and the work pattern is going on. At the same, the climate of the mother, father, wife, or children, those things actually rewire their thoughts. As you said, the word is actually correct. And their scenarios and their motivation level got changed, and their perception level got changed, and their purpose of life also got changed. And so they were forced to take certain decision towards their life. That pattern is actually also connected to their decision-making process. I think so.
Thank you very much. That's a good beginning to discuss with you. I'll come back to you on this because we have to really decipher some more points in this. Let me come to Arun Anand. Okay, a techie come HR person. It's a very beautiful combination. So you have really undergone. You must have really understood the challenges the brainy, the cerebral guy, the techie undergoes. A postgrad engineer yourself, and you worked in one of the most demanding companies called Oracle. I can understand that. And on the other side, you had actually come to a startup called Profoundis, which was taken over by Full Contact. Now you're leading a large number of employees there. Okay, that great. I understand that you have really been able to get a good balance of both technology as well as some HR. Now, I also started saying this that in some cases there had been some conversation going on by smaller companies telling that no, we develop these guys and the big companies take them away, and these sort of compensation, these sort of complaint and lamenting also happened in the scene. Okay, now so therefore my question to you, Arun, is that okay, what do companies do in preparing to retain their employees and sustaining them in the company itself? Arun.
Thank you, sir. I hope I'm audible.
You're audible.
And thank you for the question, and thank you for inviting me to the panel. And before I begin, my opinions do not reflect my employees' views, and I'll mostly be
all that taken.
will be in the IT sector point of view. So
yes, okay.
The question you asked might not be, could not be answered in probably 1 to 2 minutes. So please stop me if you have to, if my answer is a long one. So
sure, sir, go ahead.
So when you look at this question, what we are doing to retain the employees, there are two parts of it. One is who are actually leaving and why they are leaving. So why part, okay, probably Dr. Vipin has already answered. I mean, one of the aspects is their work-life balance and stuff like that. And then we have to look at who is actually leaving and what kind of people are actually leaving. So if you look at the data, it's Gen Z and the millennials who are part of this big avalanche great resignation. So we have to see and we have to understand why people are leaving first. And now this becomes a design thinking problem. Like,
okay.
what is wrong, and we have to understand that why first, and then we have to design our policies, our next step of actions, so that these employees can be retained. So if I do not talk about the why part, I might not be able to talk about the other part. So I'll quickly just go through the why part. One of the reasons is definitely they are accustomed to work from home. Some of the companies are reopening, and some of the members might not want to come to office. It's not the case with everyone, but largely that's what we are seeing. I mean, people are accustomed to work from home, and they have flexibility at work. So this is one major part of the design thinking process that I spoke about. So people are flexible when they're at home in most of the companies. So they can go for a small break for their own personal stuff like that, which they might not be able to do when they are working at office. So this is one another issue, and another issue could be there is an avalanche effect. If you compare it to the 2008 recession, so it took almost 8 years for the unemployment rate to come back to the pre-2008 period. But in the case of COVID, 2020 April, that's when the unemployment rate started to rise. Now it has come back almost pre-COVID levels now within 1 year. So this has an avalanche effect on the members. People started resigning. They see that people are resigning and they're getting greener fields. So the greener fields could be factor of many things: compensation, rewards, etc., etc. So they're seeing that people are actually resigning. So why don't I also do that? So that kind of a feeling is within them. And plus, when people are resigning, the workload that actually the existing members are getting is kind of increasing. So putting all these together, it's a multifaceted, multivariable equation. Putting all this together, people started to feel that I should look for a better job or a better greener fields. So to address this problem, what I would suggest is, or what my understanding is, you have to have a thorough recheck on your policies. So when I say policies, it could be, related to comp and ban, it could be how you recognize your members, etc. So to start from the beginning of the design thinking process, what I would say that one should look at what their employees want. So if you're a company with Gen Z, most of the Gen Z members as your members, then the things that they want might be totally different than a company with a average age higher than 40. So you have to actually first look at what they want and what they value and what are not working, and are they getting flexible time? Are they getting sufficient time offs? So for example, in my company, people are valuing time offs very much, and they want to travel. So there are companies, there are people who want to travel to countries like Estonia, Dubai, etc., who are giving free visas for people to come and work there, work remotely for a month and go back. So they're giving free visas, and there are people who are wanting to go there. So if your policy is actually blocking such people, people's dream, and they may not stay. So as a whole, I would say, as an introduction, I would say that you have to revise your policies. See, COVID has set a different trend. COVID has changed everything that we were very hesitant to change for quite long time. For example, this work from home thing. Companies were not really okay to give work from home at least once in a week pre-COVID period. Many companies were there, but now it has changed. So it has changed thoroughly. So we have to relook at our policies to make sure that people get what they want, which is sustainable for the business as well, of course. But then that is my point. We have to look at.
Arun, that is okay. But the point also is that you need to, I know that companies definitely do run heterogeneous workforce, even with the same qualification and the work from that benches that they work. But you can't be, 5 people come and say that one guy says, I want this flexibility. Another guy says, I want this flexibility. A third guy says, I will want to work at home. And the fourth guy comes and says that, okay, 4 months I want leave. So how do you manage this, Arun? If you really want to be flexible to that extent, do you think you can run companies that way?
It is. So let's go back to the, let's take a step back and see, when it's a matter of how we develop the company. So I'm stating the theory part of it. So when we develop the company culture, when I say that, when you have an accountability driven company, for example, employees get to decide what they have to complete within a certain period of time. And if you have a process and a culture where they own this thing, so there is a concept called extreme ownership, There's a wonderful book that I would recommend by Navy SEAL. So this concept says that, if you can cultivate a culture of extreme ownership within your organization, and your organization is accountability driven, all of these do not really matter. If we have, mine is an unlimited PTO, pay time of company, but the company is still running. So that's all about how you actually cultivate that culture within the company. My answer would be yes, we have to set those basics right first before actually making these changes.
Therefore, Arun, that is really going to be a massive transformation.
Yes,
whatever that we have been doing as a corporation, whatever we have been doing from a HR perspective, industrial relation perspective, all that talent perspective, and everything has to change. Now, you're actually saying it's something like a mass customization. You have to customize for the employees, but you have to do it en masse. So how do you do it? Or do you think that such a possibility do exist, Arun?
Yes, sir. So at the risk of being anecdotal fallacy, let me share with you an instance. So there is one friend of mine who actually attended an interview. So people are looking for resources, and this company actually reached out to this person. He was not really interested, but when he started the interview process, this person, this candidate, my friend, he felt that he was being valued. So this company, he has attended this company's interview in 2017 for an engineering role. And over the last 4 or 5 years, how they approach the candidate, how they take care of the candidate, etc., have changed. So companies have changed their stance starting from the hiring process, and that is there. So if you don't do it, somebody else will do, and they will take your talent. So that's the situation.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you. I'll come back to you. Nicely answered. I really love you for that. Okay, let me go to Harikumar, sir. Okay, sir, I'm trying to compare 2 questions to you. Okay, one question is that you have slightly mentioned it, but I'm just trying to enlarge upon it. You said self-employment, things such as consulting, startup, etc., has grown considerably in those places where mass resignation took place. We also had set some numbers like 1.43 million people registering for startup, etc. Okay. Now, one question is, therefore, has the revenue from it, has the earning from this compensated the otherwise the salaries that they have been earning? That is one question. The other question that I want to check with you, Professor, is on the gig economy, which is linked up together if you really look at it. On the gig economy, it is about freelancing, it is about contract working, it is about one person working in multiple companies, it's about platforms facilitating all these things, and people getting a lot of flexibility and freedom to do and to work. Okay, that is one side of it. So, though it's more to do with the personal actualization, we call it gig economy from a perspective. Now, if I combine this thing together, okay, now this gig economy model, okay, will it survive for a long term? That is going to be a sea change if you really look at it. So this gig economy model, will it stay for a long term? Second thing is the first question that I asked, the earnings that these people are going to make from their consulting and self-employment jobs, will that compensate the salaries that they otherwise have been taking from their companies earlier? Professor.
Okay, thank you. When we compare these 2 situations, the survival of the gig economy, it will be something like a rolling type. Its features, its functioning, etc., will going on, moving, depending upon how the economy environment actually changes. So that is one point. The second point is that when you are going for a consulting service, or when you are entering into that, then definitely in the initial stages, you may not be fetching the income equivalent to what you are getting as a salary from the initial employer. That is true. But why somebody quit it? He quit the job because of so many reasons that we have discussed. So when somebody quits, it means then he is ready to accept a challenge, and he is ready to do a work. Even in the initial stages, he is not getting a higher income or an income which he was getting earlier. That definitely. But over a period of time, when the things are moving, when he got his or when he gets established, then definitely he will be getting a better income, more than income, he will be more satisfied with the work that he actually performs. But when we go for this kind of activity, then we have to people have to take care of one more point, that the environment changes. The way in which they were performing in the new environment, that will also have to change. The consulting in the conventional form may not be suitable. So that will also have to change. Then only they can survive in the market. That is a point. So over a period of time, changes are necessary along with the changes in environment. Then they can survive there. Then in the long run, they may be able to get the income. That is what we find in the case of chartered accountants. Even in Kerala, we can find it. In lawyers, we can find that. In the early stages, their earnings will be a little bit. But over a period of 5 years or 6 years, they started getting established. Then they will be getting an income, reasonable or a decent income they will be getting. The same thing will happen in these consulting firms also. First of all, they have to identify from where they can excel.
Yeah, you are in favor of the self-employment and rightly, beautifully given examples of chartered accountants and advocates, etc. You had given the, and you also had said that actually this gig economy has to undergo various transformation before it comes to place. That's what you're saying. That so it's currently on its rolling phase. That's what I understand from you. Coming to Premchand sir, I have this question to you. See, Arun had been very beautifully explaining as to how HR departments or companies to do mass customization of its employees to see that it suits their purposes. Now, I have talked to Dr. Vipin Roland about the work-life balance and the health, mental and the psychological health. Okay. Now, I used to always hear about HR people, some of them sitting in front of me saying that let us engage the employees, engage the employees and engage the employees. The engagement is a sort of eventually, this engagement has become a transaction, a meaningless transaction. You're engaging people. Now, don't you think that things should shift from engagement to empowerment, Premchand sir?
Yes, sir. You're right. But just before I come to that topic, let me clarify one point which earlier first I said, which I think the speakers of see, when I said initially during the COVID period, when it was made work from home, though initially all the employees started accepting it and changing it, suddenly they realized over a period of time, at least in certain areas, there had been certain I don't call it as a misuse, but sort of work timings and all that getting highly affected, and even the freedom of life. But because when it was 9 to 5, they could plan their evening, they could plan their, but here total planning has gone. That took a major decision change for employees to look at options, and especially the younger generation who had found better opportunities. Now we're coming to this question. In this background, I would say that management and entrepreneurs has to come to real-time terms. This is what, sir, you are asking?
Yeah, I'm asking whether is it engagement the right thing, or are we required to go into the empowerment factor?
No. Engagement is engagement is not the right word. Engagement, engagement is commonly used word. But what here we have to look at, we have to tighten our belts and look at empowerment. We have to empower the employees in the real terms and totally get aligned to the current times and contexts and trends, and need to make them more flexible and dynamic, agile, and keep asking them. And we have to, HR has a major role here to play. As when you look at them, are we looking at redesigning or rewriting our protocols to see that things are properly taken care? Are we sheltering toxic leaders, or are we in the right place, especially the managers? How strong are we in our culture before the pandemic and during the current pandemic? Is our work and environment is transactional? Are our benefits aligned to employees' priorities? These areas has to be taken care. And also, I would say that when you interact in the new shift of human, as in very essential that one second. My net is getting upset. 1 second.
No. You keep on speaking. You are very well seen and audible. So keep on.
Yeah,
going
yeah.
ahead, sir.
Because see, we as earlier we are talking about, we have been in this VUCA world, and we have three sets of generations here, which are the baby boomers or the Gen X, and then the YZ. Now, baby boomers, like many of us, I won't say SR and team, but at least people like me may not be baby boomers, but on the margin of the baby boomers, and for us it was only survival needs. But subsequently, when it came to Gen X, it was more of a standard of living. And when these two are addressed properly, the YZ gen, which is the current gen, has come in. For them, this is not at all an issue. So where if you go and talk about engagement, it is not going to effectively be with them. So millennials have a drastically different outlook on what they expect from their employment experience. So they are well educated and skilled in technology. So you have to your answering to your question, the HR leaders have to now look at empowerment of employees and frequent empowerment studies. I would say even quarterly empowerment studies, looking at options of what to do and how to take care of them, what are their expectations, how to retain employees, why there is a mass resignation. And there again, you have to cock up your ears and see that is the resignation on what reason. If it is on a family issue, you have nothing to do about it. But if
Thank
it is,
you, sir. I'll come back to you because we are running short of time.
Yeah.
Very well explained. Saju, I come back to you. You see, I just want, because I would definitely love to get your feedback on this millennials and gig economy, Saju. Okay, Saju, because at one end we have this gig economy aspect, and the other end there is a very definitive gen gap as far as baby boomers, millennials, Gen Z, etc. concerned. Now, do you think that we companies must have? Yeah, we have all these gens working together in companies. Okay, so how do we actually go about in this? As far as that is one question that I have. Second thing is, I would like to definitely take a view on the gig economy as to how it will mature, and what is the transformations that gig economy will undergo.
Sure. Thank you, sir, for that. Just from my experience, I was probably the old gen style of functioning until the pandemic occurred. I was of the opinion that everyone should come to office, and that's the most productive way of managing the office. And suddenly, all of that changed in the month of February, March of 2020, when all of us had to find quick options to go back home and deliver the services which we were providing to our clients on an ongoing basis. And we adjusted quite well to the new normal, where all our employees had laptops, and we were able to transition from a 100% office environment to a 100% home environment in a span of 1 week. I'm just mindful about one experience I had in one of my trips to the US, and I thought it might be worth sharing with this group. IBM was one of the earlier pioneers of implementing work from home model. They started in the year 1999, and they had at least quarter of their 25-30% of their employees work from home during the first decade of since then. And then when they look back, and I remember this was in the year 2016, all the other competitors, if you see Apple and Google, all the others came in.
Sorry for the disturbance. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All the others came into play probably after that, and IBM was the best and the biggest during the 90s and the early 2000s time frame. And one of the reasons they have identified for that was it's all because they were not able to collaborate, and the innovation had stopped when everyone went home. And that was one of the reasons which was identified as the problem for the firm to grow over the next 20 years. And when I was in LA, they were realigning their office to bring in the collaborative environment in office, to get people back to office, but not full time. Again, having that hybrid model where employees are able to book their seats or office in advance and come to office and collaborate and go back and have that flexibility. I think we are getting back to where that flexibility is going to be the new normal, where organizations would need to look at options where they have probably some percentage of their employees 100% working from home, some of them 100% working from office, probably the first 2 years, and then the rest managing, looking at the hybrid model is what I think is the future. But then it is left.
But Saju, what about the gig workforce? What about the gig workforce? I think that is becoming massive now. How do you manage this? This is okay. Paka, I understand. Managing employees, this hybrid manner, IBM example, great. But what about the gig workforce, which is actually now emerging to be a large number?
Again, obviously, these are all depending on the sectors. SR. Again, we'll have to probably look at the sectors and have strategies which are more suitable for that sector rather than have one size fits for all. Again, what works in my organization for big sector employees may not be applicable for other sectors. So I would say it has to be tailored based on the sector you are in. If you look at the attrition this year, mostly it is in the IT services space, IT and IT-enabled services, and the healthcare sector. Whereas manufacturing and
travel and tourism,
yeah, and if you travel and tourism, probably because of the shortage of positions available, or the economy will hit drastically.
Very badly, yes, yeah.
And what is not impacted is the IT sector, and the financial service sector and the manufacturing sector is not so impacted with the kind of attrition which we are seeing in the other sectors. So it's again, I would say sectoral adjustments may be required here, and one size fits all probably may not be the right strategy, and the organizations would probably look at what is best suited for their growth, and at least keeping in mind what is the future and future of the organization. I think these strategies should be formed.
Thank you, Saju. Okay, no, I understand the point, because what you're saying that you can't just have one size set and put it to the then okay, this is a way to handle the gig economy and this is a way to handle the employee. Absolutely, okay, I really understand. Dr. Vipin, this question to you is related to work-life balance again. So I'm trying to actually focus around the work-life balance. See, HR leaders and industry leaders have their own viewpoint about work-life balance. Okay. I'm not saying that it is right or wrong. Okay. Now, people, while undergoing this work, only come to you for stress busting, and you consulting people like you to see that, okay, what is happening? The meaning of life is getting lost, or challenges in work front, challenges at home, all this, and you are consulting another. So the work-life balance as defined by the employers and the HR fraternity, is it the one that you look at? Okay, you understand as a work-life balance, or do you think there are changes required in that? That is one question that I have. And second is, if there is an empowerment that you have to do on the employees, how do you do it? Please, sir.
Yeah, it's a super question, sir. Number one, of course, we have lots of powerful HR policies. Definitely, we do respect that. But as we know that from 2G to 3G, 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, then 5G to maybe another Gs, we are moving. So the individualized and emotional based or the psychological based applications by the support of corporate psychology required for the need of the especially required for the changes of each and every individual, because people are changing. Because earlier we had Orkut, later Facebook. Now, of course, we have Insta. That means there is no late gratifications. People are waiting. The instantaneous changes are happening. The decisions also so quickly, because there are lots of things of even their computer games or the games. The generation or the psyche part is actually really changing. There is a researches actually need to be done. And of course, as Premchand sir mentioned, of course, the empowerment aspects is really important.
My question is, what is your understanding? The HR leaders and the industry leaders are saying that, okay, they are now having so much that they are doing for the work-life balance. Is it the work-life balance as a counselor that you want to have?
My point is actually from HR point of view, of course, maybe the people are right, but from a clinician point of view too, because I'm an industry and organization psychologist and practicing the cases, and definitely that we need an overall self-care, especially the people are looking for now, because their personal, especially their own health and their own emotions, their own social aspects, their own spiritual aspects, their own family aspects. These parameters actually need to be met. Then only the work-life balance consideration according to the employee will be happen. As for the policy,
what about what is your okay, Dr. Vipin, what is your view on empowerment?
Yeah, even for empowerment, we are actually putting some motivational or the self-esteem oriented processes may be there, that maybe soft skills or powerful trainings may be there, but beyond that, the organization purpose and their personal purpose need to be connected, and personally identify various mental health aspects is also there. So I will use a word is called as a micro blocks identification. And even my research was also there, the kind of a different way, identify the micro blocks of the person and desensitize those micro blocks through expressive psychotherapies and various approaches need to be implemented in the HR level rather than a simple corporate program or a soft skill program or a simplified program, which we are doing years and years, because we need a mental health oriented and psychological parameters required, and by identifying even therapeutical identification required, because me and you and everyone is a simple human being. We have our own emotions and emotional patterns are there. Generally, the so-called training pattern is actually maybe not coming to the real pattern of the behavioral side. So automatically their behavioral issues and emotional issues are actually affecting them. So HR side or the even training designers or the corporate leaders need to be restructure or refunction their thought processes on the employee engagement or the employee empowerment program, I will say.
Thank you, Vipin. I see the next set of questions that I'm going to ask you. I would like to get very brief answers because we have already exceeded our time. Arun, you said about creating organization-centric work culture, of course, different from place to place. So now, I understand about that, but at the same time, I really do not see many organizations adhering to that level of performance. The work culture, many organizations says Arun is performance-centric work culture. Okay, he has to perform. That is a work culture that they say. So what sort of a work culture are you saying when you say that, okay, when you really build up an organizational culture?
Okay, so when I say a work culture, I would mean that a transparent organization that the members are aware what the organization is planning to do and how things are going and how they can contribute to the organization. That's what I mean by transparency. So, you know, if your employees are not aware of what the company is working towards or how they are contributing to the company, so they will feel disengaged. So I would define engagement as somebody believing in the dream of the company, somebody aligned to the dream of the company. That's what I would say. That's when I would say that the employee is engaged. So transparency is something that I would start with, and then probably respecting people as adults. You know, respect what they want. For example, I'll set a small example. Could sound very silly, but then there are many Indian managers reaching out to their direct reports during off hours and when they are on vacation, stuff like that. So why don't we change it? Why don't we have a policy that you won't reach out to somebody when they're on vacation unless there is a fire at house. So we are honoring them. We are respecting them as adults, not as a direct report. So starting from there, treating everyone as an employee. Look at each of the processes. Have a focus group. And
I'm butting in. So you're saying that employees behave in a manner that employees' expectations are different. Are you sure that the employers are willing to change? I'm not referring to employees. I'm saying, are the employers willing to change to suit the situation now? What's your thoughts on this?
Your question is, are they ready to change?
Are the employers and the people who give them jobs, their expectation notwithstanding, the expectation of performance notwithstanding, are they willing to understand whatever you are saying, then go accordingly, is the question.
Yes, sir. As a force of fact, yes. because things are widely and widely changing, and it's fast changing, and they are losing talent. So they are losing.
Thank you very much. Prem sir, last question to you. I want a very, very brief answer. Okay, now world is going to be millennials and Gen Zs. Okay, and you are saying that the baby boomers and the X and all is steadily going to go away. Now the work culture, predominantly you will be seeing, particularly countries like India with so much a population of people under that, millennials and Gen Zs. Okay, so what is going to be the future of this particular HR, human resource? Prem sir, very brief answer.
Yeah. I'll be brief. In fact, before that, let me one point, SR, permit me to say, work-life balance you asked, and Arul, my colleague, I'm sorry, not Arul, my psychologist, he was mentioning health. See, actually, work-life balance for an employee is a combination of both the HR angle as well as the health angle. So it is, I would say it's a combination of both. You'll have to address the health part of it also, where role of a psychologist is required, where the work-life balance changes to those areas. Anyhow, coming to that. Now, to you answering to your question, what can you repeat it, sir?
My question to you was actually, with millennials and Gen Z is going to rule the work front. Okay. What is going to be the future of HR?
Future of HR, we have to be, the HR has to redirect, retune itself to the present scenario. And
that really calls for 180-degree transformation. Will HR undertake that?
It is not 180. It has to be a 360-degree change. And
360, you come back to the same place, sir.
No,
180, you go to the different direction.
No. I meant it differently. Not in the statistical form. And 360, what I meant is it has to be a total change from the existing thing, and the HR has to reinvent and redesign its policies and protocols, because you'll have to, as one of my panel speaker colleague was telling, you have to have a mixed breed of both in-house or
time factor. Prem sir, very well said. Coming to Saju. Okay, Saju, managing companies, getting numbers going up by 50% every year, international offices, international organization. Do you really see? I think all of us were taken for a big surprise by COVID. Okay, and I think we can expect these surprises to happen in times to come, very many times. Are organization prepared to undergo such surprises in future? Is it going to be rosy? Saju.
Sure. Sir, I just wanted to add on the gig economy first. In a sense, we really tested that during this time. And we had close to 100 of our ex-employees come back and work with us on a contract basis. But then the challenge there is,
that's great.
How do you monetize? How do you monetize every aspect of your job? And to your question, whether this is going to come in, I'm sure all of us need to be prepared. And and today probably COVID has helped us to get there. And this is something which all of us are ready to handle. And consider this as an opportunity, and be ready is what I would say.
Thank you, Saju. Very well said. Professor, I have this question. The current Nobel laureate, of economics for this year, Professor Dominic Card, did a natural experiment on immigrants to Miami in 1980s and found that the difference of the difference to arrive at the conclusion of migration. And he said there is no effect of migration on the existing workforce. Okay, something like that. Similar to that, sir, with these changes that is happening, massive level of resignations happening, massive level of self-employment happening, do you think that we can actually really work out another model of economics in terms of earnings, in terms of life? Sir. You have to unmute, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that question. Definitely, taking that results or taking that model, we have to remodel things in this context, because the remodeling here means the remodeling or what actually happens or what is likely to happen in the labor market. Yeah. So in the labor market, there are different kinds or different types of employees are there, and suiting to that, the remodeling is essential in this context. That is what my opinion.
Sir, actually, I now really feel, a panel discussion where the real paucity of time. Okay, I would have been on and on and on with such an illustrious of the panelists like this. But due to the positive time, and we had exceeded time very well, I am without much of which people have heard you all very well. Without much of conclusion, I am taking you back to President Madhav Chandran. Madhav, all yours, please. Unmute, Madhav. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, and the elite panel of these domain experts in this field of HR, as well as psychology, as well as hiring, recruitment, whatnot. What all things has COVID actually made us to do? Whether it is relooking at ourselves or rewiring or rebooting, and the way in which we expect things out of life and from those around us. I believe, from what I understood and what I heard from all of you, is that people have actually started looking at life in a slightly different angle, and giving more stress on what you expect out of your own life. That is what everybody is talking about, I and me, and that kind of an angle, singular terms, and then thereafter the changes which are bound to happen when those eyes are being connected with other people. That is where the recruitment and the HR is coming in. You have a big job at hand, I'm sure, the HR people sitting here, and psychologists and psychiatrists also have got a lot of work, because the way we are seeing talks and the way we are seeing counselings happening, too much of load is there in your hands also to actually tackle the situation. But we are still in a fluid kind of a state. We really do not know whether we are out of that, the flux of situation which we have gone through for the past 2 years. But still, we need to be on our guard. Things are changing. We need to be nimble. We need to be adaptable, and we need to change according to the situation which is unfurling, because it is not yet the final situation which we are seeing now. We were talking about going, the work from home, route by even the blue chip, our own favorite companies talking about that, and big people coming in and making announcements that a huge chunk of people are going to work from home. But now suddenly things have started saying that you need to work from office, then only you get productivity, you will get positive outputs only that way. So things are changing on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure this panel discussion with these kind of speakers who have seen it all throughout their career and all throughout their journey, I'm sure this must have given some kind of an enlightenment to the people who are listening to us today, both the employers and the employees. The people who are glued to the screen right now, the numbers never changed actually all throughout the discussion. So that shows that people are eager to understand where we are heading to and how we are going to come out of this situation. Thank you so much, all of you, for being there and sharing your thoughts, and thank you, sir, once again for identifying the right people and bringing them here and pulling out the best out of them as to what they know the situation is right now. They cannot talk for anybody else. They can talk for only themselves from the kind of results and feedback which they are getting from the people whom they are in touch with. Thank you so much for that. And as he rightly said, 1 hour is too less a time for this kind of a panel to come out with all the points which you wanted to say, but still I'm sure all of the delegates sitting here must have got their time's worth, I must say, from this panel discussion. Thank you so much. Well, before I hand it over to our Treasurer, Mr. Bibu Punnuran, for the formal vote of thanks, let me make some house announcements. We have a slew of events coming up. On 23rd November, we have this month's Women Managers Forum activity, which is a session by Mr. Subba Vaidyanathan, the founder of Being Sattva, on a topic, You Are the Power. It's a masterclass on self-power by Mr. Subba Vaidyanathan. He is the founder of Being Sattva, an organization which is into developing youngsters and women in facing life adversities. So the theme is called the You Are the Power, and it's a masterclass. That's on 23rd November at 6 p.m. On 25th November, we have a big day coming up in KMA. It's an extraordinary general meeting which is scheduled. The notice has been sent to all the KMA members. We have a long set of things to be taken up for business during that day. It's 25th November. Please mark the date and be there in good attendance, because we need a good quorum. We need a lot of interaction and discussion on the points which are being taken up for approval for the EGM, because we are making certain very, very critical changes, like even the calendar year of KMA going to be in sync with the financial year. So that's a very major change for KMA. So please be there. That's 25th November in the evening. And on 30th November, the last day of the month, we have the next in the Leader Talks series, the lecture series led by our program committee chair, Mr. Sanayar. This time it's going to be a session by Professor Dr. Tatavarti, who is a director, Tatavarti Rao, who is a director of GVP Group of Institutions, and he is going to talk on managing the carbon emission obligations of India. It's a topical topic. So it's on 30th November, leader talk session by Professor Dr. Rao Tatavarti, the director of GVP Group of Institutions. It's 6 p.m. once again on 30th November. So please mark these dates and keep watching the SMS, email, and other communication modes from KMA. Please stay tuned. And now it's time for the formal vote of thanks. Our treasurer standing in for our secretary. We have Mr. Bibu Pundaran of the Medivision Group of Institutions, the person who was in the limelight for all the lab-related activities over this COVID times. Mr. Bibu Pundaran, our treasurer, for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, President Madhav. Good evening, everyone. So it has been a really enlightening evening. And well, this topic of mass resignations perhaps does not or did not apply to me personally, because I was in the healthcare sector and was working double the hours during the COVID times. Anyway, there is a saying that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. This was recorded as early as 1659. And I feel that this has come to revisit us in 2020 and 2021, perhaps in a different manner altogether. And that is perhaps the reason why, there are these mass resignations going on. And that is perhaps the reason why, this topic has come up today. Being a very long evening and having enthralled us throughout, we had very eminent speakers, and I would like to thank each of you. Professor Dr. Harikumar, Dean Faculty of Social Science from CUSAT. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us today evening. And Mr. Saju James, a former KMA Management Committee member and Managing Director of Fragoman India. Thank you very much, Saju, for being with us this evening. Dr. Vipin Roland, a corporate psychologist. Thank you very much for enlightening us this evening with your wonderful insights. And Mr. Arunanthan TA, Head HR, Full Contact India. Thank you once again for Full Contact India for having been with us and enlightened us on your subject. And of course, leading from the front, our President Madhav. Thank you once again for this great evening. Former President and founder, past President of KMA, founder chairman of NIPM, Mr. Premchand. Thank you for being part of the panel this evening and sharing your thoughts. And of course, our program committee chair, dynamic past president, leader to all of us, even now, after all these years, leading from the front, Mr. S.R. Nair, for making this such a lovely evening, a great evening. Thank you all. Once again, thank you and good night.
Bibu,
yes.
Having closed, Bibu, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
I think SR is also there. Having closed, Bibu said about he is busy because I always say hospital and hospital associated services, there is never a market dull. It is only on the increase. But in the same breath, let me tell you, today the greatest load that is being taken is by hospital of availability of staff and manpower because of this. And interestingly, sir, just now when I was sitting in this panel, I get a WhatsApp. People are prepared to change. From work from home. I was mentioning about this. One of my colleagues who was asked to do work from home, he has found a novel idea of starting a startup with this. I'll just say it is what do you call using mridangam on a motivational. It is a motivational training session with percussion instruments and two playback singers who presently, since there is no much of movie coming out, they are also feeling frustrated. So they together in Trivandrum has started a startup, Mridangam Teamwork. and they are coming out with various motivational sessions. I'll forward this WhatsApp to you on Mridangam. So new sort of, very, very interesting startups are coming up now.
Yeah, I think we'll see that whether they'll reach the StartCon plan.
that I don't
we'll
know.
talk about them.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much. I think, Bibu was too shy to actually talk about our sponsors also. Thank you, Medivision, of course, one of our main sponsors, led by Bibu himself. That's why he was shy on that. And Heal, and of course, Varma Homes are sponsors who are making all these events possible and, their activities seamless. Thank you, Bibu, for that. And we had shown in between those mementos. I'm sure the HR people as well as past presidents have got a lot of things to talk about. So Prem, our past president, couldn't resist that particular snippet which he wanted to share with us. But then this is something which I wanted to share with you: the signature memento from KMA, which will adorn your cupboards or the showcases, where it's a proof of you being here today. It's not a virtual one; it's right now seen on the screen, but it is a real one, which will be in three-dimensional shape. It will come to you by courier very soon. And thank you once again, Bibu, and all of you, for being here, and the delegates for a wonderful audience today here, and the secretariat team led by Jojo, Padmakumar, and Prajit, and all of you there. Thanks for making this possible, and have a good night.
Thank you, President. Thank you. Thank you, sir.